there were certain things that happened that night that weren't normal. It doesn't matter your level of training, it doesn't matter your equipment, it's just the enemy has the advantage and you're in a bad situation. Going through, clearing the house, and got into a pretty big firefight in the hallway. Next thing I know, my whole world exploded.
Now, what was it that motivated you to go in the military?
You know, I was born in Bakersfield, California. It's a farming town about an hour and a half north of LA. So, you know, as much as from birth I wanted to be in the military and it was always something I wanted to do, in that town you either went to the junior college, the local junior college, or you joined the military, or you went and worked in the oil fields. Pretty much, you know, one of those three options. As much as I'd always wanted to be in the military, I was going through that rebellious phase and that's what everyone else was doing. So then of course that's what I was not gonna do. So instead of joining after high school, I moved to Los Angeles for a year. I was there for that year and then it was kind of weighing on me like, man, this is, you know, why aren't you doing what you want to do? I'm very happy with myself that I, during that time, kind of went, you know what, if I don't do it now, I'll never do it because life will get in the way.
Yep.
You know, something will happen and then I'll never have done it.
Absolutely.
So I just joined.
I totally agree. A lot of people don't realize, especially at that age, just how narrow that window is.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You know,
yeah.
you think you have forever to walk through that door of opportunity, but you don't.
It's easier when you're younger. It's a young man's game,
time.
and the older you get, the more difficult it takes to not just join, but go through the whole process. So I basically decided very early on, I was like, I'm going Army. And I went into the recruiter and I was just like, hey, what's the hardest thing I can sign up for? Joined and then went straight to 2nd Ranger Battalion.
And then how long were you there before you decided to go to the next level?
I always knew about the unit. As soon as I understood what the process was, which was probably about 2 years in Ranger Battalion, because up until 2 years, I mean, you ain't thinking about anything other than getting your Ranger tab and stop getting the crap beat out of you. So once I was a tab spec 4, and at that time I was in the sniper section, as soon as I was kind of there, I was like, okay, like what's the next goal?
Got it. Obviously came to the unit. It's where I linked up with you. How long were you in the unit before you deployed?
About 1 year and 4 months, because obviously training was a year. I think it was 4 months after I got to my team.
How much time did you spend overseas?
At the rotation I was, you know, I didn't do nearly as many deployments as so many other guys. At that time, you know, we were rotating every however many months it was. Did a couple trips with my team, and then I got hurt.
If you don't mind, take me through just how that went down.
What happened to me was, it was a series of small things that generally didn't happen that way, and that night, for whatever reason, they did. It was a nighttime assault in Sadr City, which is south of Baghdad, and we were hitting a target. There were certain things that happened that night that weren't normal. You know, a guy that we were normally working with for a certain reason was sick, and so we got a different guy, and we weren't as used to working with him, and we hit the target, and then turned out it wasn't that target, it was the building next door. And while, you know, I remember being in the first house inside there, you know, and you know how it is, you develop a, you know, sense like a police officer, where you go in the house and you can smell, they're guilty, or you can smell, yeah, this ain't the place. This doesn't feel right.
Sure.
What ended up happening, it was the house next door, which we slowly started figuring out. And by that time, we hadn't even really reconsolidated to make a plan. It just kind of all happened at once, because it's a really bad area, and it's, kind of very shanty towny, and we were kind of planning our next move, and then just kind of all hell broke loose. And the house next door opened up. I think there was over 10 insurgents in the other house. They shot up a whole team, dropped a whole four guys got shot within about 2 seconds, and then we assaulted the house from the back door. So came from both directions, and going through, clearing the house, and got into a pretty big firefight in the hallway. It's just one of those tactical situations that it's just kind of a shit sandwich. There's really no good way to do it. Doesn't matter your level of training, it doesn't matter your equipment. It's just the enemy has the advantage and you're in a bad situation. And we're there getting ready to throw a grenade, and next thing I know, my whole world exploded, and I remember getting blown up and hitting the ceiling, and then slamming back on the ground, which I was told later is when I actually broke my elbow, which is kind of random. The explosion didn't break it; it was falling and broke my elbow. And I just remember being on the ground and looking up, and I'm seeing down the hallway, and there's just smoke, dusty. The whole environment's obviously dusty, and I thought my arm was blown off because I couldn't, it blew up all the way to here, and so it deadened my nerves. So in my head, I felt that my arm was gone. It felt not there. So I looked around for my arm, looked down, and saw that it was still there, and it just looked like hamburger meat. Kind of made the conscious decision that I wasn't going to look at it anymore. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was just barely hanging on. What you don't realize is your arm goes into shock. What was killing me after a while was the tourniquet, because the tourniquet's on the good part where you can feel.
Yeah.
And that thing constricted down. Oh man, I was just like, that stings. But yeah, I got ridiculously lucky. So then the medic got over to me and did a great job. The first guy that got to me, had he not did what he did, and then the medic not done what he done, and then we were lucky that I was a 10-minute Little Bird flight to the cache. So 10 minutes later, I was on an operating table. The doctors told me, they said they had done so many extremity surgeries from all the IEDs that had gone off in Baghdad that they were trying stuff, clamping arteries and doing their little magic that they would have never tried. Had this been a year ago or 2 years for sure, they said they would have just cut it right off.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong though, but it was a serious adjustment. I mean, it was like you're on the Super Bowl team, and all of a sudden, overnight, you're out of the game.
Any injury, as you know, I mean, anyone that's been in the community any amount of time has been injured, whether it's twisting an ankle, breaking it, whatever, it's common, super common. Just like being on a pro sports team, you get hurt, you sit out a season, whatever. Having an injury that not just sidelines you temporarily, but sidelines you permanently is a hard pill to swallow. I went from, with my team, in Iraq to Germany in literally 24 hours. Within a week, I was back in the U.S., and then I was in the hospital for several months. During those months, guys were still overseas doing work, and not being a part of that, that was hard.
May 19th, 2005, in Fayetteville, North Carolina, as you can see, my wonderful apartment. I go into surgery tomorrow for my arm. Yeah, get the rod taken out, and be looking forward to that because it causes what we call in business pain. Alright, the point is getting that removed. And I want to document my arm because it's going to change. It's going to change. It's going to change.
I understand there's a documentary you did. If you would, kind of take us through that.
Yeah, the documentary is titled That Which I Love Destroys Me. It's about a 5-year process. I'd been working with the director, and he just kind of, asked me if I wanted to do this project as a nonprofit project to be put out there to help veterans, using my experience and what I went through to get veterans to talk about their experiences or their problems or their issues, and try and get them out there and work through them rather than keeping them all inside and kind of letting them eat away at you over time. The message that I'm trying to convey to veterans is, if you want help, if you want success, if you want anything, then just do what you were raised to do in the military, and that's attack it. Go get it. You know, it's not going to come to you. You got to attack the objective and take it over. Don't quit. Keep going until you obtain the objective.
People want to watch it.
Yeah.
Where do they find it?
Right now, probably on demand and iTunes is the best way to find it.
So what have you been up to lately?
I do everything from consulting on films, which people kind of think that's strange, but you know, my feeling on that is, you know, they're going to make a movie about our community one way or another. It's going to happen. What I'm trying to do on that is to be a part of a film and be a technical advisor or consult with the production and tell them how to portray us right, and accurately and in the best light as possible. So I do that. You know, I do firearms training and everything like that. But I'm also trying to really get into, you know, which is the concept of the show, which is really push forward individual responsibility. We are all responsible for ourselves, our families, and the people around us. And the way we make ourselves better and the way we make everyone better is by accepting that responsibility and learning how to take care of ourselves. So I really like teaching that, and I'm very excited about the show that we're going to be able to show people how to do that for themselves.